Have you ever witnessed a scene so outrageous that an entire neighborhood outing turned into chaos in the blink of an eye? That's exactly what happened when Karen, the notorious HOA busybody, decided to join the community for a football match at the local stadium. It began as a perfect Saturday afternoon, the sun shining down on families dressed in team colors, kids holding flags, and neighbors chatting as they walked toward the stands. For once, it felt like everyone was united, excited to cheer on their home team. Even Karen, who was usually too busy patrolling the neighborhood for lawn violations or yelling about trash bins, appeared in a surprisingly cheerful mood, though she couldn't resist announcing loudly that she had VIP seats and a handbag worth more than most people's rent. With oversized sunglasses and her signature dramatic flair, Karen strutted into the stadium like she owned the place, dropping her giant designer bag on the seat beside her and warning people not to touch it as though it contained top secret files. A few neighbors rolled their eyes but let it go. After all, today was about football, not HOA drama. The game kicked off, the crowd roared, and for a brief moment it seemed like Karen might actually behave. But of course, peace never lasts when Karen is involved. Midway through the first half, just as the home team scored an electrifying goal, Karen leapt to her feet, shrieked, and spun around in panic, screaming at the top of her lungs, "My bag! Where's my bag? Someone stole my bag!" The joyous cheers of the crowd turned to confusion as she started pointing at random people, accusing them of theft. Parents clutched their kids, neighbors looked horrified, and even strangers sitting nearby were suddenly under suspicion. People tried to calm her down, suggesting maybe the bag had slipped or fallen, but Karen wasn't hearing any of it. "Don't cover for them! Someone here is jealous of me, and they took it because they know I have expensive things," she shouted, stomping down the aisle and blocking the view of anyone trying to watch the game. She demanded strangers open their purses, insisted neighbors empty their pockets, and even went as far as accusing a teenage boy simply because he had a backpack. The boy's parents were furious, the crowd was annoyed, and whispers spread about how Karen had once again turned a pleasant gathering into a circus. Instead of enjoying the game, everyone was now caught up in Karen's meltdown. And then, as if the embarrassment wasn't enough, Karen dialed 911 on speakerphone so the entire section could hear her dramatics. "Yes, I've been robbed. At the stadium. My luxury designer bag has been stolen, and the thief is still here," she cried, her voice dripping with self-importance. The operator dispatched officers, and within minutes, 2 policemen arrived at the stands, trying to make sense of the chaos. Karen immediately took center stage, waving her arms like she was directing traffic, and announced, "Over here, officers! The thief is here, among us!" The officers asked calm, straightforward questions. When did she last see the bag? Where was it placed? And whether anyone suspicious had been nearby. Karen's answers were anything but helpful. "Everyone looks suspicious. They're all involved. I told them not to touch my bag." The neighbors groaned as Karen's paranoia grew louder by the second. The officers decided to investigate thoroughly, scanning the area and asking stadium staff to assist. One officer carefully looked under the seats while Karen hovered like a hawk, barking orders. "Check that man's jacket. Look in that lady's purse. He's hiding something." The crowd's patience wore thin, and people began booing her. Even the kids who had been laughing and cheering minutes before now looked scared and uncomfortable. But the show went on. Karen, too, blinded by her need to be the victim to realize how foolish she appeared. Then, in the middle of her tirade, an officer bent down between the seats, pulled something from under the row, and calmly asked, "Ma'am, is this your bag?" In his hands was Karen's giant designer handbag, completely untouched, wedged where it had slipped during the commotion of the earlier goal. The crowd gasped, then burst into laughter. Karen froze, her face burning red, before stammering, "Well, I knew it was around here somewhere, but I still think someone tried to take it." The neighbors shook their heads in disbelief, whispering about how she had embarrassed the entire section for no reason. The officers handed her the bag with professional restraint, though one of them couldn't help but smirk at the ridiculousness of it all. The football game resumed, but the mood in Karen's section was forever changed. People were no longer cheering for the team. They were whispering about Karen's meltdown, laughing quietly, and recording videos they couldn't wait to post. Online. Can you imagine being so desperate for attention that even when proven wrong, you still double down? That was Karen in full force as the aftermath of her stadium drama unfolded. With her giant bag safely back in her lap, she puffed up her chest and declared loudly, "See, this is why we need the police. If I hadn't called, my bag would have been gone forever." The officers exchanged a quick look, clearly aware of how absurd her claim was, but they kept their composure. Neighbors, however, weren't as patient. One woman muttered, "It wasn't stolen, Karen. It just slid under the seat." Another added, "You ruined the whole game for everyone." But Karen, unwilling to accept even a shred of responsibility, waved them off and snapped, "Don't you dare blame me. If you people had cared enough to look, the bag would have been found sooner. I can't trust anyone here." Her words sparked murmurs across the section, some laughing, others shaking their heads. Parents comforted their kids who were still unsettled by her yelling, and teenagers giggled as they replayed the moment on their phones. By then, Karen had become the halftime entertainment, her meltdown more memorable than the score of the match. As the second half began, Karen refused to sit quietly. She kept turning around to glare at people, whispering loudly about how thieves were everywhere. Every time someone stood up to get snacks, she eyed them suspiciously, clutching her, bagged tighter like it was the crown jewels. Even the police officers, who had decided to stay nearby just in case she caused more trouble, looked tired of her antics. They eventually told her, "Ma'am, your bag was never stolen, and no one here is under investigation. Please enjoy the game." But Karen couldn't leave it alone. She stomped her foot and demanded they take statements from everyone in her row. The officers politely refused, which only fueled her fury. She muttered under her breath about lazy police and ungrateful neighbors, completely oblivious to the fact that she was now the laughingstock of the stadium. Meanwhile, on social media, the incident was already trending. Videos of Karen screaming about her missing bag were going viral, with captions like HOA Karen strikes again and she accused everyone but gravity. Teenagers were editing clips into memes before the game even ended. By the time the final whistle blew, Karen had managed to alienate nearly everyone around her. Families who once tolerated her HOA rants now vowed never to sit near her again. Neighbors whispered plans to formally complain about her behavior to the homeowners association, hoping to curb her future outbursts. But Karen, ever self-righteous, strutted out of the stadium with her bag clutched tightly, declaring, "At least justice was served because of me." The irony was lost on her, but not on anyone else. As people filed out, laughter followed her like a shadow. Kids mimicked her shrieking voice. Parents rolled their eyes, and even strangers from other sections were talking about the crazy woman who thought everyone stole her bag. Back in the neighborhood, the story spread like wildfire. By Sunday morning, everyone had heard about Karen's public spectacle. Some replayed the viral videos at the local coffee shop, others joked about installing seat alarms for her at future games. Karen, however, doubled down yet again, telling anyone who would listen that she had single-handedly stopped a major theft ring. No one believed her, but she didn't care. In her mind, she was still the hero. The reality, though, was far different. Karen's meltdown had exposed what the neighbors always knew. She thrived on drama, craved control, and would never admit when she was wrong. And while the football match had ended with a victory for the home team, the real win went to the neighborhood, who now had the ultimate Karen story to tell for years to come.